Like to be a guest on Coffee Talk? Just email us your information at wpkyonline@gmail.com. We're proud to call Caldwell County home. WPKY.
1580 103.3 WPKY. Tess and Ty and Coffee Talk on the air at 8:07. And of course, Ty, we've got a couple more birthdays or at least a birthday and anniversary.
Yeah, we certainly do. Didn't want to miss these. Kind of dropped in on our email, and we didn't pick them up. So, Guyer Milliken, happy birthday to you, and happy anniversary to Mike and Nancy Milliken as well. So, congratulations. Good folks there. Happy birthday to Guyer, and happy anniversary to Mike and Nancy Milliken.
We don't want to leave those out.
No, not at all.
We have a friendly face in the studio this morning to kick off Coffee Talk this morning, Miss Rhonda Jewell. We were just talking about how it's just a nice, lazy day, good day to just kind of chill out and curl up with a book or something on the TV, just something, right?
Would be nice, yes.
I bet you're not going to do that, though, are you?
No.
I don't think she ever just lays around. I don't think that's it. That's part of her vocabulary.
No.
Well, we have been actually quite busy. This past week, actually, on the 25th, the Truth and Consequences was held, and this was actually facilitated, put on, and organized by the Caldwell County Extension Office and the Hope and Cope Center. We had a great day. There were about 148 freshmen that came through. We had 60-plus volunteers that served as surrogate parents and resource people, and it was a great day. I think the kids actually it's always a great learning experience, and really the whole premise of Truth and Consequences, the choice is yours, is to allow kids to see what are the consequences if they get caught with pills at school that are not supposed to be theirs and prescription drugs. What's going to happen? What are the steps, and what are the things that they're going to face? And so hopefully it helps them to make a good choice.
Wow, very impactful, I'm sure.
It is, and again, it is a huge undertaking, but and it is definitely community. If it were not for the support for the community, we could not pull this off. So.
Oh, I've heard lots of great things about that. I heard the kids really got a lot out of that.
I think they did. They did a lot of comments, and they were great kids. It was a great group of kids to work with.
Just freshmen?
Just freshmen.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then we also have a lot of our clubs, our after-school clubs that are meeting. We actually have craft club that's meeting this afternoon. We actually have two craft clubs. We have an advanced craft club and a beginning craft club. We had such a huge number that wanted to participate, and like half of them had been in the club before, half of them were third graders and they were new to 4-H, and so I'd lead the beginning club and have some assistance with some of my teens, and then Rebecca Hendon leads the advanced club. So the advanced club meets this week, the beginning club met last week. So they're busy always doing things, and a lot of the things that we do are things that kids can enter into our exhibit day, or something that they can give as a gift, or something that they can keep and cherish and think, oh, I made this. So,
give us an example of some of the kind of things that they might make at the craft club.
Last week we made a wooden pumpkin, made just out of a 2x4 with a dowel rod for the thing. So they had a chance to paint it. Cool. They actually put it together because we had to put the stem on and do the raffia and the ribbon and stuff. They were really, really cute. Rebecca has done things like at Christmas time, they'll do some years she has done a snowman, and it's just out of a plank of wood. They paint the snowman white and put the hat on and different things, and had several kids over the last several years that have entered them and have received ribbons at the fair, blue ribbons actually, because they do a tremendously good job.
That could very well lead to, though, a love for crafting and for appreciation for art, and that can lead to all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of stuff.
Stress relief.
Yes.
Those of us who like to craft, I think a lot of us do it because it's a great stress reliever.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I love to craft. Just don't have time, but that's one of the reasons that I like leading it. So it kind of gives me an opportunity to do it. So.
Right.
And then we've also got Unit 1 Sewing that's meeting tomorrow. They met last week for the first time. They're going to meet this week for the second, and then next week they'll probably finish. They're working on a drawstring laundry bag. So they're having a really good time and doing a wonderful job. And again, our dedicated volunteers, if it weren't for them, it wouldn't happen.
And don't those come in handy, those drawstring laundry bags?
They do.
Well, you call it that, but it could be it. You can use it for lots of stuff.
Kids take them to camp. Some of them get them embroidered, and they use them, take them to overnights, or they just hang them up in their room. And
I had a kid take one to band camp.
Yeah,
you
oh,
go.
About a week ago.
Yeah. Well, Peggy Cox, Mary Lou Stevens, and Betty Ballard, again, they're very dedicated, and it wouldn't happen without them. I did have to help last week, and I sew, but I don't necessarily sew the right way like they do. I just kind of do my way. And so I was having to ask directions and stuff. But anyway, they do a tremendous job.
But that's the
They're
other
really good
thing
with the
that's
kids.
good about having a group is you do have things to bounce, off
yeah.
of, and,
Yeah.
and you've got a lot of people that are there to kind of teach you little things, and you can share information.
Exactly. I learn by my mistakes in sewing. When I make something, I usually pull it apart, and we do end up pulling things, picking things out and stuff. But that's just part of it, part of sewing. Also, I have STC coming up this weekend, which is State Teen Council. We have kids from each district, 6 kids from each district that get together every quarter. We go to JBES, which is the 4-H Leadership Center, and they have a chance to, they're working on Teen Conference, they're working on Teen Summit, they're working on service projects, they're working on all different kinds of things, but this is the state officers, and basically, I guess you could say they're a leadership team. I don't have any kids going, but it's my responsibility to take them this time, and I'm really looking forward to it because I've never had a chance to go, and I'm really just looking forward to seeing what all happens. So
You all rotate that first from
we've
the agents?
started.
Okay.
It hasn't been that way, but we've started, and I've had a couple of kids the last several years, and I feel like it's my time. It's my time to pull. I need to pull my weight. So, and we've got 4 of us that are dividing it up, and there's 4 trips. So
Okay.
There you go.
anyway, yeah. Also, cooking will be next week. We've got middle school cooking that meets on Monday and elementary school that meets on Wednesday. Joni leads that, and again, it's an after school clubs, and just gives kids a chance to learn to, proper cooking and, healthy eating, as well as recipes that they can replicate at home. And the elementary is a little bit more basic, and then the middle school is a little bit more advanced.
A little bit more advanced, and that's tremendous because knowledge in the kitchen, knowing your way around, and a lot of times, mom or dad might not be home, or grandma or granddad might not be home, and you get home from school, you're starving,
Right.
And guess what? You can safely prepare something.
Exactly.
and
Even
have
if it's in the
knowledge.
microwave.
Yeah, even
Because
if
they
it's
do
a microwave
cooking.
deal. So.
You'd be surprised. These kids, I'll tell you, when CJ, the first time he fried a piece of bologna all by
Yeah.
himself, he come in here, didn't he? Ty was here. It's just a few months ago. He come in here and was so proud of himself because he had fried a piece of bologna. And that is something that these kids are really learning, the crafting of cooking.
Right.
And I think that's neat.
Fried bologna is a good place to start.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. But I mean, at the time he was 12 years old. So I mean, it's something that those little life skills can really go a long way.
They can. Had years ago with just my cousin's daughter, Meg Gilkey did the colossal cookie class, and she ended up making them and making them and making them. She was making them and selling them. She was giving everybody wanted some of Meg's colossal cookies. So she could have started a little
There you
business.
go.
There you go.
So in there, it was the best recipe.
Cooking and entrepreneurship going together.
There we go. We've also got Stuck in the Middle coming up. Whenever I come home Sunday, I get to leave again Monday to go to camp for overnight. Stuck in the Middle is for middle school 4-Hers. We've got 11 going from our county. I think there's a total of 80 of us all together.
Wow.
We don't have school on Tuesday, so it's prime opportunity. There's several schools that do, so some participate and some don't, but since we don't have school, it gives the kids something to do. Plus, it helps us keep our middle school kids involved and active. And looking forward to that. I'll be teaching a jellyfish friendship bracelet class at Teen Summit, along with some other stuff.
There you go.
We are doing. They do some fun classes and stuff, and we're doing an achievement orientation. We do have an achievement program in 4-H. Kentucky 4-H, where kids can receive, I guess you could say, achievement awards in middle school, level 1, 2, and 3, and then when they get to high school, bronze, silver, and gold, and then the emerald. And there are, I guess you could, I don't know what you want to call it. It's not cash rewards. Well, with the emerald there is, but there's incentives to do the program. For one thing, it makes kids keep a record of their stuff. It helps them get in the habit of keeping records, as well as when they graduate, they've got their portfolio ready for their scholarship applications. and ready-
Organization
exactly,
skills.
exactly, and it teaches them to keep up with things. And even if it's an hour service project and an hour of giving time to somebody else, that's something.
And needless to say, how cool it would be to be 30 years old and look back and go, look what I did.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly.
I mean, it's a
Exactly.
keepsake. So
It
and,
is.
and it's and you're it's a hey, I learned all this stuff.
And too, they get rewarded in different kinds of ways along the way, and have opportunities to do things. So, like teen conference,
Yes.
national conference. So, we've also this Thursday. I'm really excited. Not this Thursday, next Thursday, at West Kentucky Community College or West Kentucky Technical College. STEM for Girls is going to be happening. This is going to be Thursday, November the 7th from 5 to 8 o'clock. Rebecca Wingfield, who is a NASA flight director, is going to be there. And
Now,
she's
that's a
gonna be-
hometown girl,
Yes,
right?
it is.
She was my student, huh? Yeah, Becca. She was known as she was Becca Johnson
Becca
back
Johnson,
then.
yep.
She was my student in the 8th grade. I had her for 8th grade science, and she always wanted to go to space camp and was never able to because she played soccer. But her senior year, she was able to go, and I'm just really, really proud of this young lady for her accomplishments.
Well, that's awesome. And of course, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yes.
And you need all that stuff
Exactly.
to do
And
what she does.
Exactly. And she is proof that girls can do science.
No
I
doubt
hear
about it.
so many times that I just can't do science. I just don't like to do science. Well, girls can do science.
I never believed that. I saw a lot of girls that were great in science all throughout school, and no doubt about it. She's
There's a lot
achieving.
of women nurses, and that's science.
Oh, yeah, you got that
They
right.
just don't realize it. But yes.
I love telling my kids that, though. She works at NASA.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like she works down the street, or something. She works at NASA,
and she's a
people.
flight director. Several years ago, her father was the entomologist at the research center, Doug Johnson, and he ran into me and he said, I got to tell you this because I know you'll appreciate it. And there was an incident. This was back before she was a flight director, when she was working with the space station. Something happened on the space station, and she had to fix some calculation. They called her like at 3 o'clock in the morning. You've got 45 minutes to get this done. And so she had to get to NASA. She had to, figure this calculation up, or it was going to be disastrous for the space station. It was going to be a real big
Houston, we have a
real big
problem,
thing.
right?
Exactly. So anyway, just the magnitude of the responsibility was pretty awesome. And anyway, to know that she was responsible for that, I think is pretty cool.
I have a
I
hard-
just think it's neat because I'm the first one to talk a lot about sports and our athletes and that sort of thing. But you know what? That's an athlete in itself right there.
exactly.
And I'd love that that's something else we can put a spotlight on.
I have a hard time adding
think
up
so,
a total of a grocery list. There you go.
Exactly. Well, it is a free event, and it's from 5 to 8 o'clock, and they do serve food, so you do have to register, and if they can register online.
Say, how do we do that?
You can.
Good question, right? Uh-oh.
Well, yes, it's on my Facebook page.
Good job,
It's,
Todd.
and I know Jeff Sims. If you go to Jeff Sims's page, he just posted it yesterday.
Okay. Well, the song, I write the songs by
Well,
Barry
yeah.
Manilow. I write the songs. I ask the questions.
And I will put it up. I will put it up on Facebook, and I will send it. I will send it to y'all.
And it's
about that.
okay. We'll
No, I
get
love
figured
it.
out.
It's not a
They
big
need to
deal.
know if they want to.
Where's Becky Johnson? Let's call her at 3 in the morning. How do we sign up for this thing?
You sign up through West Kentucky Tech, but I will post it on Facebook, and I will also send it to y'all. How about that?
That
Awesome.
sounds great.
Another kind of to go on, another congratulations to Nicole Banzi. She is actually from Northern Michigan. She has been the interim camp director at 4-H camp for the last several months, and she has just been recently hired as our new camp director. We're so excited for
That's
Nicole.
great.
She has done wonderful things so far, and we're really excited about her being there. This past weekend, they hosted Cloverfest, where they were going to have a haunted hayride and have games and different things during the daytime. Kind of got rained out. It was a real damper. But Sunday, I went and took my grandkids, and we had an absolute ball. And this hopefully will be a yearly event, so hopefully we'll have better weather next year. But
That's great.
yeah, we're
And of
really
course, our
excited
4-H
for
camp
it.
in really great shape.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's been updated, modernized, and a lot of work and effort
Exactly.
has gone into upgrading our camp. So
Definitely. We're really proud of it. And
Sure.
I was on the hayride with several people, and they were, going around camp, and people saying, "Oh my gosh, this is nice. I never knew that this was here." Da 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 da. So anyway, it's good to hear.
Y'all got a disc golf course up there too.
We do.
I
we
know.
We also have a slingshot.
Range?
I don't know if you call it a range.
Like a range?
but
Yeah, it'd be a range, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Don't want to shoot your eye out, kid, do you?
No. There's a new,
That movie will come on. Here in a couple of weeks,
It's
that movie
coming
will
up,
be
yeah,
on.
that's why I had to kind of preempt that one.
We also have a new low ropes course and
Wow.
just, all kinds of stuff. So
Good stuff.
we also got a 4-H banquet coming up the end of the month. That'll be November the 25th, and this is when we recognize those kids that have participated in state events. We've got some that have won state, won at the state level, and so we recognize them. We also recognize our volunteers, but it's just a really good night to celebrate our volunteers as well as our 4-Hers. So.
Fantastic. My goodness. Can you just see that slate of things that's going on at 4-H? Unbelievable. And, of course, you do a fantastic job as our Caldwell County 4-H agent. Of course, great cooperation between all you agents. I know you're very close. It's kind of a tight-knit group. And, again, you all
work well together.
Spread the wealth around. Oh, Tori Earl, I know. And,
yeah.
And,
You can contact Tori to.
I bet I contact Tori because he's right in the middle of all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, fantastic.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
being here. We sure
Thank
do
y'all for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Try to have a good dry day
I'm
and
trying to get to feeling better. I've been sick.
This weather doesn't help, does it? Well, happy
My
Halloween
goodness.
to you and all your kids. Enjoy your day at the school, and again, thank you for your tireless efforts
Thank you.
with our kids in 4-H, and we certainly appreciate it. That's Rhonda Jewell, our UK Extension Agent for 4-H here in Caldwell County at 8:23. It's Tess and Ty Coffee Talk, 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Hey guys, Heidi with Capitol Cinemas, your local Princeton movie theater with your weekday lineup. In Cinema 1, Rambo rated R, shows Monday through Thursday at 6:30. In Cinema 2, The Addams Family PG, shows Monday through Thursday at 6:30. In Cinema 3, Joker rated R, shows Monday through Thursday at 6:30. Call during showtime hours at 270-365-0200 or visit us at capitalcinemas.net. Thanks for listening. See you at the show.
1580 103.3 WPKY, Tess and Ty. And of course, Ty doesn't have his headphones on. If he did, he would hear my music. I've got theme music going on in the background. Steve can hear it.
Yeah, yes, I can.
It's perfect for Steve.
I've
because
got
he digs that kind of
Halloweeny.
music, yeah.
Perfect.
He loves it. I know he's going to be fired up. I've been looking forward to this interview all week.
I think it's going to be so much fun. Of course, it's Halloween time. And we were thinking about it. It couldn't be any more perfect. Hey, let's have Steve Asher come.
Hey, and Jason Williams is here with the taco hat on. That's pretty cool, too.
Hey, I'm going to tell you what. That's my basketball buddy right there. He's on my basketball team. Are you still talking to me this morning, Jason, after I ran you to death yesterday?
He shook his
Of course,
head.
he's part of our Special Olympics basketball team, and we sure do love them to death. And they do a really great job and work hard for us. So I'm glad to see him this morning. I'm glad you brought him along.
Yeah, that's my buddy. That's my shadow right there.
There you go.
Steve Asher, podcaster, ghost chaser,
Extraordinaire.
and author extraordinaire, and all things ghoulish and ghouly. And he is here in the studio.
I heard you got a new book.
Actually, I do, yeah. I didn't even have to plug it. Thanks.
How about that?
That's what you're here for, man.
Well,
Do it.
I'm here to visit y'all and bring some donuts,
Yeah, we
but we can talk
appreciate
about that. Yeah, actually, it's called the Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, Habitual Hauntings at the Castle. And this is some stories that I didn't have in the first book that I didn't get until people come to me in book signings and said, oh, well, why didn't you talk about Kelly Moss? Or why didn't you talk about the dungeon or this and that or certain aspects of the dungeon? I didn't know anything about them. So I'm like, well, tell me more. So then over the course of doing book signings for that and the Hauntings of Western Lunatic Asylum book, I got enough for another book. I didn't plan on writing a fourth one. It was going to be a 3-parter. So, and that's what happened. I ended up having another book. And the book is available now, but it's still going to take you, probably a week for it to be to get to you from like Amazon. But you can also go there and get the Kindle version midnight Halloween.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. There we go.
Perfect release.
Of course, you were just at Willard. Was that for this particular book?
Yeah. Willard was great. Went down there and
We're talking about Willard Library, by the way, in Evansville, Indiana.
Evansville, Indiana, really iconic place. Have you ever seen Ghostbusters where you walk into the real big ornate place and
yeah.
they have the ghost that turns around and goes, shh? looks just like it. And they have what they call the Gray Lady there. I did not see her. I invited her. If she wanted to come up to talk, I would totally give her the mic. But she didn't show up. Maybe she was shy. But yeah, we went up there and I did a sort of a presentation explaining the process and how I went from a little kid catching crawdads down in Big Springs to whatever it is I'm doing now. I'm trying. I don't see myself as a highfalutin writer, but I try.
Well, we're proud of you. And, of course, Willard Library, I mean, that's something close that people can go to and see that's really neat in a lot of different ways. But it's kind of famous for its hauntings.
Tell us about the Gray Lady a little bit more. What's the story? Did they give you the beef on that?
Yeah. Well, they gave me the ectoplasm on that.
Yeah.
The thing was, supposedly this is one of the former owners, the lady of the home. And I went down there, and I actually got to do a little mini investigation. And I had some photos that looked normal, and then I got to places that, okay, when I come down, it felt off. And just like, say, a hunter in the woods knows certain tales, it's the same thing.
Kind of a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Very much so. And what happened was, I was like, can I take some pictures down this way? And I said, is anything happening down here toward the children's library? He said, we would get a lot of activity there. I went, okay, I'm going to take some pictures. So I took a few down the hallway, had kind of a shining vibe, the long hall.
Right.
And as I got closer, it started getting blurry, and then it just went blink. Like I got a green screen. I've never got a green screen on my camera before. Brand new camera. So I was like, freaky. But as of the gray lady, former lady of the home, her and her family ended up donating the property. And you don't get really a malevolent feel. You get definitely like, this is Mama's house. I'm keeping an eye on things. Close the door, wipe your feet, use a coaster. It's that kind of feeling.
All right.
And, she's just making sure things
Her
are...
and my grandma would have got along.
There you go.
Sweep the floor.
That's
make
it.
sure everything's okay.
Yeah, we raised in a barn, exactly. And it was really cool. A lot of people come out, probably did a 25, 30-minute Q&A session and got to sell books and whatnot, make friends, and that's what's great.
There you go.
You get to talk to these people, and for me, it's not like that I'm feeling like I'm moving product. Obviously, everyone wants to sell their books, but these are interesting stories from people near and dear to me, especially in this location. That's what they got to understand. This is a flavor of Princeton and Caldwell County, Lyon County, here in the Lakelands, and it's one of those things that I love it that people, even though they're not necessarily right in this area, everyone loves a good ghost story, especially around Halloween.
Well, and speaking of that, now in this area, I know of a couple of places, I guess. I mean, that, all of us do. I mean, where we're growing up here, where, if you're some of the more famous in Caldwell. I know that your new book was about the penitentiary.
Correct.
But let's stay in Caldwell for a second and say right around the Princeton area, most haunted place in Caldwell County. What do you think?
Man, well, it depends on what you consider a haunting.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the old story about the courthouse, where did that come from? My Southern's coming out. The courthouse story where they supposedly found the coffin under there, and it was on display and stuff out front. And
well, tell us about that. Some people may not know that.
Man, okay. To me, it's like an old story now. But during the building of this courthouse downtown right now, it's our fourth incarnation of the courthouse. They decided to put in a basement or a storm shelter or something. Well, they're digging down there, and then there's a couple different stories. It depends who you talk to. There's an official newspaper story, and there's also people who said that their uncle or their dad or somebody was in it. I'm not making any judgment. I'm just telling you the two different sides. Well, they said that they had found what appeared to be a coffin. One person said it was more kind of like a lead coffin. One said it was more like a lead-lined glass coffin, but you could see the face of a person in it. Supposedly there was a person in it, and it was a young kind of nobleman, well-dressed. Couldn't really tell anything was wrong with him. I'm not saying it was a vampire, so let's not go there. I'm not Carl Kolchak.
I wouldn't know the difference. I just figured it'd be somebody in a coffin. I couldn't tell if it was a vampire or not.
I don't know. Well, they said his pallor was like he was sleeping. So I mean, whatever it was.
So this was they were pretty well preserved, so to speak.
Yes. I mean, it was airtight apparently.
Well,
Okay.
with it being a glass coffin, you
it
would
could have
think,
been, or lead,
right?
or whatever it was.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, even if it was like a lead coffin, it had enough of a viewing thing so you see the face. It was
Right.
just how it was back in the old days. So anyway, they supposedly found this, and I don't know what happened to it actually had a body in it. Now there was a coffin that was put on display in front of the courthouse, which is sort of, I think what it was, because people thought, that's kind of ghoulish. I said, no, I guarantee what it was. everybody was coming in there going, hey, where's that coffin? Where's that coffin? And they couldn't get anything done. So they said, here, just put it out front. Let them look at it. But this is around World War II. And supposedly they went ahead and put the coffin on the metal drive, which I'm thinking, that's a weird bit of history. I don't think I would have, I mean, I'm patriotic and all, but that's a big piece of history from here.
Right.
And, but if you go down in there, and if you ever get to go inside, there's chases and pipe chases I've been lucky enough to get down into. It's kind of wonky feeling. It's really weird. I've not been able to go down there with some equipment, but your personal barometer goes off.
So was this person identified? Did we know who it was?
Not
or?
a clue.
Really?
Not a clue. Because if it was in the ground for a while, some people said they thought it was Civil War era. Some people said it was before the Civil War. But the thing is, there had been courthouses there before the Civil War.
Right.
And the ground had not been disturbed, it looks like, in 100 years or more. So who knows? This might have been one of the early founders' relations or something. Just weird that they put them there as opposed to maybe down close to where Shandy Hall was by Big Springs.
That's interesting. Of course, you talk about going down there. You kind of had that feeling that your human barometer, but there are certain things that you use to kind of detect energy sources, I guess.
Totally, yeah. I mean,
and what are those kind of things?
well, I mean,
it's kind of Ghostbuster stuff, but it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think it is.
well, I mean, it's one of these things. You can definitely get very much in debt or broke buying the new pods and this and that, and different sort of, everything. It does everything but make julienne fries. But definitely, you'll be using voice recorders. You'll be using temperature gauges. You'll be using. That's because of temperature drops appear in areas where there's paranormal
I got a
activity.
question for you.
Lay it on me.
How do you know?
How do I know what?
Why are ghosts cold? How come they're not hot?
Because they're my grandma. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. But these are the blonde questions that I have.
Okay,
You know.
if I had hair, I'd be blonde too. No, well, my thing is, I don't attest to saying or try to say, oh, well, these are spirits, these are this. I don't know. I just know it's activity.
But I mean, what is the cold
Okay.
mean with that?
If you have batteries and equipment, a lot of times they drain. A lot of times you'll feel fatigued. You'll get muscle aches. You'll just feel like a constriction on you.
Oh, wow.
Because it's drawing energy from anything and everything, and sometimes it's from temperatures changing. Also, electromagnetics has a lot to do with it, I believe. You always heard that it was a dark and stormy night.
Right.
And it's the perfect catalyst for that. I think also your mind is different at night. You're not as trapped up on what's going on during the day, and at night you're just more open to that.
Okay. Well, no, I'm a weenie. I'm gonna tell you right up front. I'm the chick that has the nightmares. So I mean, when I ask you a question, I mean it genuinely.
No.
No.
Don't let me, or don't get the idea that I'm just this guy rolling up my sleeves and say, "Come at me." I'm not that kind of guy. First of all, I'm always respectful to anything I encounter because that's how my parents raised me. But it's I've been to some real kind of wonky stuff. It scared me, and I have nightmares too.
Do you think? And here's my theory. Back in the day, they used to say, well, back in the day, they didn't have all this equipment and that sort of thing, and you hear the legends and you hear the tales and that sort of thing. I think it seems like they used to see things all the time, and now we just don't see them as much. My theory on that is that there wasn't the lights, there wasn't all the distraction. It was quieter back then, so they paid more attention. They could hear more things.
Well, we were a lot more seasonal living. Wintertime, everyone was inside. Everyone was stuck inside. Well, they do talk about stories. My mom and my dad, all of them kind of come in from Appalachia, and or Appalachians, however you want to pronounce it. And so we got a lot of the oral tradition. But there is that thing. Unless you've got a ghost app on your phone, most people's down like this, looking at their phone. So it's just a different kind of vibe. But one of the things that I do use that is old school are the divining rods, because I don't know the last time we had them on county, but I think we used to have a county diviner. Almost every county did. It was just what it was.
That's how we got our well dug. I'm just saying.
Was the guy, and I'm not being facetious or silly, was the guy an albino? I heard that this was, honestly,
I don't know.
I heard it's
I
the
really,
best
I don't.
because
know.
I think the pigmentation, for whatever reason, they respond to energy stronger. And water gives off a certain electromagnetic signature,
Right.
moving water, especially under a car system like under Caldwell County in this area.
Yeah, a lot of karst topography, and of course,
Huge.
those rods. I guess, and you have your own. Did you make your own? Did you buy these things?
No, I
or
made them.
you
I
make
mean,
them?
you can make
They've
them.
got to be certain dimensions, don't they? And certain lengths and.
For me, I made mine probably about 7 to 8 inches for the handle. A lot of times I'll use a dowel rod drilled through, so subconsciously I won't kind of move my fingers or flex my finger muscles to navigate it. I usually make them about 2.5 feet long. I mean, I've seen some people that use one rod that's real short, and it's probably a lot lighter than the pair I got. I got a pair, they're made out of brass. So
You're not looking for water.
I'm not looking for water.
Right.
But you can charge it for anything you want. I mean, that's the belief. I think it's more of an extension of your personal ability to feel wherever something is. Just like if you ever walked into a room that had really old electrical wiring, like maybe Granny's old stairs up going to the attic, and you're like, I never liked that place. And part of it's because it's not shielded electrical, and it affects your brain. So.
Wow.
Very, very, very interesting, Eagle.
Well, hey, all of us, I don't care who you are, you have seen or heard something and scratched your head and said, I'm not telling anybody because they'll say I'm nuts. But, I mean, everybody has had that moment where you're not real sure what that was.
I just had this feeling that you're being
Yeah,
wrong.
I mean, everybody's had that.
When I went to work at the penitentiary, I should say, not when I went to the penitentiary. When I went to work at the penitentiary, especially, I'd already started doing investigation. But the thing was that people, like you said, they'll be playing the Ghostbusters theme or kind of cracking jokes and whatever. And then when the bosses kind of go, and they kind of go, hey, I don't want to say anything, but, or, and I've heard this a lot too, I'm a God-fearing Christian, but, and,
There are things in this world I can't and not begin to explain.
So what are some of the coolest haunts or stories that you have from your new book? And what's your new book called again?
It is The Hauntings of the Kentucky State Penitentiary, Habitual Hauntings at the Castle.
Habitual Hauntings at the Castle.
Habitual Hauntings, because what had happened, I found out that different stuff had started, and some things had continued normal, or like they have been, and some seem like they've morphed into different things. And one of the weird things that happened, there was this was right during the Civil War, and there was a black gentleman who was a slave, and he had a son. Well, his son ran and joined the Union. Well, the dad, because he was so used to living in that system, he was like, oh, I don't understand what's wrong with him. He was kind of like Stockholm Syndrome, and he basically shunned his son. Well, the son, I believe he died in fighting, trying to further freedom. And on the guy's deathbed, he was the father was very tore up and very upset and wished he could have made amends. And some say that the short streets next to the penitentiary that lead down into Old Edival, which is underwater now, they'll see the shadow of an old elderly black guy walking around looking for his son, calling for his son.
Wow.
And I never heard that one.
These are folks, I guess, at the penitentiary that are maybe sitting in a tower or getting there late or sometime, and they're
all that
they feel or see something.
Yes, I mean I've had. I don't want to say too much because I always keep people's stuff private. Yeah. Just, some people don't like people talking. Former officers, current officers, former higher
people that
ups.
have spent some time there.
Yeah, that's vested and that's not just seeing Elvis in their coffee and whatnot.
Right.
So and you investigate these. I mean, you hear these stories. You go out and you do interviews.
Right.
And talk to these people.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And working in law enforcement and corrections and stuff like I've done, and just anybody who deals with people, you can kind of study body language. You can kind of study if they're doing a lot of looking at the ground, or and they're trying to piece it together where it sounds right. But you can tell when somebody's body, you can tell like they're clenching down, like they're reliving it, and you can tell their face gets a little ruddy, or they're just. It's no fun. They weren't having fun, and this isn't like some attention. This is like, sometimes it took me a while to get people to open up just because they don't want to talk about it.
Right.
Well, and again, a lot of times, if it's not the popular opinion, sometimes people will think you're nuts, or they'll tell everybody to laugh, and it's the peer pressure thing sometimes, I think.
Well, it's okay to laugh about. I mean, because there's some hauntings were kind of funny, because it was like we used to have some inmates that would try to steal a smoke from you, or steal if you have a pack. They knew you saw them do it, and it was sort of a game, ha ha ha. But they were also testing the water, see if they get that cigarette from you too. But in the old days, the guy walk up on the yard, captain, talk to, let's say, Teddy. Hey, Teddy, how you doing? Light a cigarette, hand you a cigarette. what's happening on the yard. That's how that was. And it was a callback to that. And there was people that said they would have their cigarettes moved around and set up on a top of a shelf, just like, hey, I'm here. You know, I ain't going anywhere.
So have you got book signings coming up after the Willard? Have you got more set up?
That's the plan. What I'm looking at doing, excuse me, I'm looking at probably doing something in November, most likely at Paducah Books. I haven't been back there since last year. Like I said, it's one of those things I got to balance work and all the stuff with the family, and of course
Right.
you're going into Thanksgiving and Christmas and that. But this is my busy time. So yeah, I'm definitely got some more stuff coming up, and my new books. I should probably mention, if it's okay, the Cat's Tail should be getting their copies of my new books here within probably the next week, and Read More Books over in Madisonville will also have those as well. And
Okay.
I plan on probably doing a signing there too. It's just, again, juggling it and trying to do that. And I'm also still editing. I have a short stories book that's coming out next year. I've also got, I don't know if I mentioned it, I was writing books on Kentucky counties. And there's 120, but each will have 60 chapters. And the first one of that will also come out next year. And then I've got the other one started for next year. So
Awesome.
Well, you've got a lot of homework to do, mister.
Are you still doing the podcast, House of
Yes.
Asher?
House of Asher is going very well. And let me see. I've got the History from the Dark Side coming up, which is sort of, it's more video oriented than just audio. And the first story is actually about the courthouse and the coffin.
And House of Asher, is that on YouTube or is that on a regular podcasting, however you get that?
Well, I go through Spreaker, which is kind of what I use my my digital
Right, your
set and all
setup.
that, my setup. But then it can go through, let me see, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud,
So you search for House of Asher and it should pop up.
House of Asher. But also, if you go to YouTube, that's the one that a lot of people know it from. And if you like it, please like and subscribe and share it with a friend.
Well, especially for Halloween, that would be a whole lot of fun, is to talk about and interesting the haunts and that sort of thing in the area. And of course, this is not the first book that you've done.
No, this is well, if you count the Great Mud Flood booklet, this is 5.
Where can you get the rest of your books?
Go to Amazon.com.
They're all on there?
They're all on there, and you can follow me. Also, if you go to, this is all lowercase and together, SteveEAsher.com. This has links to all the books except for the new one, but if you go there, it takes you to Amazon. It also shows about my appearances. It also shows about like some of the weird paranormal pictures and EVPs I've got. So
Cool.
it's kind of an all-in-one shop.
Thank you for coming in today.
Absolutely. Thank
Always
you guys for having
interesting.
me.
Always
We've been
great.
looking forward to that because I knew that new book was coming out, and that's something that those stories I haven't heard. Those are some stories that I haven't heard.
Well, I'll tell you, if you know the folks down here at the bowling alley, Linda,
Yes.
that works down there. She
Miss
goes,
Gilkey, good
Yes.
morning.
Yeah, she may be listening. Hey, Linda, she was like, boy, I sure wish you could get that book out a little sooner because I was doing it next year. I was like, well, I don't know. And she's like, well, the next year, yeah. I said, no. And then I said, you know what? Forget it. I'll just let it out this year. And I said, so if y'all like it, thank Miss Gilkey.
She's
Bless
one
her
that-
heart. She is a sweet lady.
She's good people.
Say the full title again.
Oh, it is The Hauntings at the Kentucky State Penitentiary. Habitual Hauntings
Habitual
at
Haunting.
Castle.
All right.
Very good. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
sir.
We appreciate it. And thanks for bringing Jason in this morning, too.
Hey, he keeps me out of trouble.
Well, he'll do that. He will absolutely do that. And, of course, don't get me wrong. It scares me to death sometimes to think about some of that stuff, but it's also a lot of fun, too. And it's neat history at the same time. Because a lot of that stuff is historical when you think about it. That's stuff you've heard your grandma talk about.
Well, that's the thing. Anytime I write anything like this, I make sure to interject a lot of local history and local flavor. And, when I did my talks, I'll say this real quick because I know we got to go. But I said, look, I'm nobody. I'm just a guy who's some weird stuff has happened to, and I've, for whatever reason, just wrote it down, and people were interested enough to read it. I don't know. This trip, this train may end tomorrow, or it may go on another 10, 15 years. Who knows? But, as long as I'm having fun and I'm entertaining people and I'm finding new stories, and that's the fun part of it.
That's right. Well,
Good
thanks
stuff.
again, man. I
thank you.
appreciate it. Hey, stick around. We got another haunting guy in there that's just waiting to come on. Mr. Jeff Sims is up next at 1580 103.3 WPKY. 1580 103.3 WPKY, and we are smack dab in the middle of Coffee Talk, and of course another one of our buds that we love to see coming, Mr. Jeff Sims, because he's got my little girl. I'm telling you, cutest little girl. How's my girl this morning?
Your girl's sick this morning.
No, Ellie!
She's having to miss her first day of school, and she is destroyed.
Aww.
So I told her I'd tell her hi. Hi, Ellie Bly.
Hi, Ellie.
Hope you get feeling better, honey.
Bless your heart.
She's
She's
going
the
to
sweetest
the
thing.
doctor here in a few minutes. So.
Oh, well, it'll be okay.
Oh,
they'll
yeah,
make
she'll
it.
be
They'll
good.
make it all better.
You know how reboundy they are at that age.
Hey, she's got Sims blood in her. She can bounce back,
bless her
right?
heart. I don't know if there's an injection for that.
She's awesome, though. I love that kid.
She is, man. What a loving kid. We're so proud of her, and she just has a huge heart. So,
Well,
the Lord has blessed us, certainly.
that big smile, I will tell you, when you see her walk into a room, she can sure light it up.
She's got it.
Hey, what do you got going on? You going to light anything up?
We got a lot going on. I hadn't been in and talked to you guys lately, and it's built
I
up on
know.
me. So,
What do you got?
I want to jump right into some stuff. One thing that I want to make residents aware of is that, we've got an interesting organizational coinky-dink, I guess you'd say, with the city and the county on this, but given our newfound partnership, or not newfound, but the continued strengthening of our partnership, this has become much easier to kind of work through and around. So I want to pass this along because the 4th District goes inside the city limits.
Right. Mm-hmm. I got you.
So I have to work closely with our partners at the city, certainly, around issues. And one that I've had come up that I want to make sure everybody in the city of Princeton is aware of, and it is specifically affected to folks in the 4th District, is Chapter 51 of the City Code of Ordinances, and it's Ordinance 01-07-2019-1.
Whew.
And what that is that's around the leashing of your dog. So we've had 2 instances in the last couple of weeks where we had a older lady chased by a loose dog, and then we had a young girl about 6 years old that was chased inside her house. So this is, of course, something that we just can't have going on. So I just want to make people aware. There's been a lot of questions. Is there a leash ordinance and a restraint ordinance on dogs in the city limits? The answer is yes, and it's that aforementioned Chapter 51 and the Ordinance 01-07-2019-1. Those are punishable. Those are misdemeanor. That's a misdemeanor offense and a fine up to $500.
And now what that means is when you turn your dog out to let them go potty or whatever, maybe they live outside. They need to be restrained. They have to be either on a leash when you're walking them, not, they're a really good dog, he's going to stay right with me, but on a leash when you're walking them, or in a fenced area of some kind.
Correct, because not only is it a violation of ordinance, but the liability of that being your animal is huge. If something, and nobody wants something terrible to happen or tragic.
Right.
So just want to pass that along. If you have a loose dog in your neighborhood, our animal control officer is a county employee, Tommy Pettit. This is a county cell phone number, 270-963-1159. If for some reason he doesn't answer, you can call Princeton Dispatch at 270-365-2041, and they will assist. Mr. Pettit cannot write citations, but with our involvement with the partnership and the involvement that we have to have with city police, they definitely can. So we just want to keep from doing that. We just want to make people aware that there is that out there, and please be responsible for your pet. Well,
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's just good manners when you're out and about as well.
It is. And like I said, the big thing is having a 4.5-year-old daughter. The last thing I want to do is have her playing at my mom's house in the front yard, kicking ball, and a dog attack her.
Right.
I mean, that'd be bad.
Well, and I know some places are pet friendly, some places are not. You need to check with that before you bring them in, right?
Yeah, and this isn't an indictment of any pet, certainly. I mean, they're just have a nature, and things scare them and things happen, but this is a educational opportunity for owners across the city to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So that's why I want to bring that up, because it seems to be popping up. The next thing that we've been working on at the county and observing certainly, and I had a lot of feedback on this on the campaign trail, was county internet, countywide internet. So that is a hugely complex issue. What I will update you on is Kentucky Wired, which many people believe is internet, which it is. It is circular trunk lines, and what that is that those are almost like wagon wheels, spokes on a wheel, and those were designed by the state for state facilities and school systems. So the reason the wagon wheel shape happens is because if there is a cut in the line, you can still transmit from the other side.
Gotcha.
So out on Dawson Road, in close proximity to Northside Church, that is some fiber that is part of the Kentucky Wire project. So in Princeton, it routes right through Princeton. Now, there's a misconception about that's going to allow people to tie in and come off, to do rural broadband and other projects. That's not the case. This is specifically dedicated for the expansion of state broadband width and school system broadband width as of right now.
So like a private network.
It is, and it's high capacity. They say it'll last them about 30 years as far as the number of cables and strands that they have in that fiber. So understand why we're going there, but I want to kind of quell that misconception about that's going to mean internet for everybody, because that's not where we are.
But Jeff, was it initially though? It wasn't initially kind of sold that way. I mean, I don't mean to say it, but it was kind of, they're going to run it here, they're going to run it there, and then you're going to be able to tie on, and the cost of that was going to be significant.
The overrun's about $600 million, I think. So it's not a project that endears itself to many Kentuckians.
So it's been scaled back to a little bit more realistic terms, I guess.
Absolutely.
So to speak. Okay.
So just want to update everyone on that. Now, what we're also doing is we are monitoring closely. Judge Wade White in Lyon County has announced a fiber project down there, as well as the Judge Executive of Hopkins County. There are two different modes, two different approaches to that project, and we are watching both. We're also working on setting up a meeting with Hood Harris, is the Kentucky manager, or the state manager for AT&T. So we want to see what their plans are. Our concern is, and why we're kind of in a wait and see mode on rural broadband is getting in to huge capital outlays and then having a technology that is already outdated, or there are options out there with fixed wireless. AT&T is kind of pioneering that, but we don't have a lot of good feedback on that yet. There's not a lot of data on it. And then to lay fiber to every house in the county, you're going for miles and miles and miles, and then you might have somebody not participate. If you can imagine, on some of the northern and southern ends of the county, you might run a mile or two of fiber for one home.
My neck of the woods, that's actually lowballing it, to be perfectly honest.
If you were to make it accessible to everyone. So,
right.
It's just everybody wants it. We're very aware of how powerful it would be to have, but it has to make sense. We can't add another so many millions of dollars to lay a network that we don't know is going to be viable, and that the technology or our what they call P3 partnership, we've got to make sure that's all in right.
Oh, and we know. Hey, I live out there. It's frustrating. I live it. I'm telling you, and I guarantee you do as well. It's not like he lives at the courthouse. I mean,
that's right.
I think everybody understands the challenges that go along with it. But, as residents and as taxpayers, we say, you know what? We need a fix. We're not even too picky about what it is as long as we get one.
Right. So there's a lot of things, and I think that's where the advantageous part of not wait and see, but really doing the due diligence with the dollars is gonna pay off. Some of these counties. I was at KACO last week, our annual conference, Kentucky Association of Counties, and that was one of the hot topics that came up from everybody from Pikeville to Fulton. Everybody wants to know about it. Everybody wants to know what to do about it, and so everybody's kind of some folks are charging out ahead and some are waiting and seeing. And, you know, with us having the ability to kind of see two different approaches in two counties next to us, I think that'll be very telling and very interesting to see.
Well, and like in certain areas of the counties, we've seen big towers go up too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people that are anxious and you know have a lot of questions.
Sure.
If they still have questions, where can they go to for those answers?
That's a good question. They can call me. I love that. They can reach out to me on Facebook or call me on my cell phone and just let me know what they're thinking, because it's something that I'm just getting into that exploratory mode about and trying to get answers and understanding about, because you know, there have long been rumors that we have fiber optic buried throughout the county. And, you know, that's one thing, is trying to discern if that's the truth or not and who owns them.
Right.
So there's one thing about them being there, and it's another thing about somebody letting you on them.
Oh, well, that's true too.
So that's all part of the investigative process of how can we build this thing.
Well, how
and
does it
make
get that
right.
way? How do we have fiber in the county and nobody really know if we do or not? How does that happen?
Yeah, aren't they supposed to call before they dig?
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a question. I mean, you know, where was a ball dropped if we've got fiber supposedly, you know, underground throughout our county, and who put it there and why it's there and who paid for it and all that stuff?
And the belief is it would be a national carrier
Okay.
that owns it.
Okay.
That paid for it to be laid and owns the network.
So it would have basically been laid like a phone cable, like your telephone line.
Kinda brought
Instead
through
of
with
it
it.
being telephone line, it's fiber that's sitting there. I gotcha.
We don't know, but those are the type things that we have.
And it might not be everywhere.
You're
Maybe in
checking
some
it out,
places and not in
investigating,
others.
And we're having that discussion at our conferences with other county officials, like, hey, have you ever heard of this or this or this?
Yep.
And I'm not saying it is there and where it is, but we're
And
trying
it could
to
be a
find the maps.
private company has come in and done something,
Right.
and you don't really
Yeah,
know.
it's definitely not a municipal
Right.
deal. It is a private entity that if it's out there, it's been laid by them as they have.
And just to
done
let you know,
something
we're
else.
talking about state easement too. We're not talking about in the middle of your front yard.
Right.
Okay,
That's
gotcha.
right. So a lot going on with that, but you know, people continue to ask, and they have asked for a long time, and we are working on it. We're trying to get the info. The KCO conference again, it's a great opportunity to go and talk, get to talk to vendors as well as other magistrates and judges from other counties. An example would be our voting machines. We're going to be having to look at replacement of those sometime in the future, and that is a giant expense. So with the pension bearing down on us, we go up there, we find out that there are two vendors. We've always only had one, but that's certainly something that we're going to look at, working with KCO to get some contracted pricing, some different options to help manage those costs. Of course, Tony does a great job, and she is on top of it.
Bring back the levers.
There you go.
Bring back the levers and the handle.
Well, it's amazing, you know, for what millions of dollars were probably, well, across the country, hundreds of millions of dollars were probably spent to obsolete paper.
Yeah.
And now it's required.
Now you got a paper ballot, but in a lot of places. But you know, I don't know. If I'm recalling right, but it seems like it wasn't too long ago we got new machines. Those new machines.
About 15 years ago.
Yeah. So life expectancy about 15 years. Yeah.
And now, you know, with the digitization.
Well, then you have education too for the people to know how to run them.
Yes, but the digitization of everything, and the thing that catches you on these, and why we're doing so much research on them, is the compliance side.
Sure.
Right.
Because at any time during your purchase, Florida in 2000 happens or whatever happens, and there's some massive overhaul of the voting system.
And then you're like, uh-oh.
You've already spent 100, you know,
Now we're scrambling.
$100,000, $200,000.
Right.
Another thing that I wanted to touch on, we also up there had a great discussion with the person that runs the pension system, the head man on that. So actuarial analysis, all the things that are in that process and funding the ARC, the pension system is getting better, but it has still got a massive way to go. So I know that's something that's on a lot of people's minds. Jail work release, I know you had John Pettit on.
Yes.
So that's another thing I've been working on quite a bit with John, and trying, you know, we get a lot of questions about that. Why don't we work our inmates? Why don't we work our inmates? Well, Caldwell County is one of 2 life safety jails in the state. So we do have the insurance protections. However, we do not have the state designation that allows unsentenced inmates to work. So that sounds really confusing, but what that means is that until you are convicted, you are not eligible for work release. And it also requires a judge to designate you as available. So when we get our county inmates, by the time we get them sentenced, they're either bailed out or they are transferred out to a state facility.
And what that means too is there are people that are awaiting their trial. They have
Yes.
not been actually,
They're not
the
guilty.
judge has not found them one way or the other, but they are maybe in jail and awaiting trial at the moment.
That's right. So a lot of people ask that. Why aren't they picking up trash? Why aren't they
Because
doing that?
technically, if they haven't been, passed judgment upon, then they're not technically an inmate.
That's right.
Okay,
That's right.
gotcha.
So I just like to provide some clarification to that one. One huge thing that came out of the CACO conference and something that we're working on and we've got to pay super attention to is the census. I did not realize what it truly meant until I went to this conference. I knew what it was, but I didn't understand all the mechanisms and all the things it provides from a federal funding level, from roads and streets to housing to educational reimbursement. I know the superintendent and his group will be pushing it as well because it is going to be critical. So a couple things they're doing, they are going to give you the opportunity this time to do it digitally. So that should help a lot of folks. And then you'll receive a paper ballot and 2 or 3 warnings, and then somebody will come knock on your door. So it's going to be something that we must have high participation on. And if you can do that voluntarily ahead of time, that's just going to help somebody from knocking on your door.
All I can think of is come and knock on my door.
Well, it does. It means a whole lot for federal funding for all our roads and streets and infrastructure and schools.
We can't afford
it names it. So if you're out there, stand up and be counted, I guess. Because,
Well, and when you think about it, we talk a lot about it even at the school. We can't get free lunch unless people fill out those forms, for Mr. Brown. We talk about that when he's here. So same thing. Census, if we want funding, we got to fill this stuff out.
Yeah, it's critical. So I want everybody to be aware that that's coming early next year, and it is absolutely imperative that we do a great job. We want to have the highest participation rate in the state, and historically we've done a good job, but that was 10 years ago.
Right.
So the thing for people to keep in mind is for 10 years, it doesn't get reevaluated again. So think about what the pension's going to do in 10 years.
So we're going to be stuck where we're stuck.
That's it. If we don't participate at our level that we need to, then we're going to have to live with it for 10 years.
All right, I'll fill it out.
Lots of stuff on the old agenda, Mr. Sims.
And one more thing, and then I'm
do
done.
All right.
Vote November 5th.
Oh, yes.
Vote, 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 please.
And then vote.
And vote
right?
some more. Vote.
There you go.
You just get one, but
just give one. Hey, your vote counts, though. I think these days more than ever, your vote makes a difference and it counts. If you get nothing else drilled into people's heads anymore, that is something that you need to do. You can't fuss about the outcome if you didn't go and try to make a difference.
And if you got a question, reach out to me on Facebook, or you can call me 270-601-1081.
All righty. Anything like breaking news about trash? No?
Everybody keeps making it.
Hey, I like it. Jeff Sims, thank you for coming by and seeing us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Magistrate District 1 here in Caldwell. 4, I'm sorry. I don't know why I had Elbert's on the brain. District 4.
Elbert, that means you need to come see us, evidently.
So thank you for your visit today, Jeff, and we certainly appreciate it.
Miss Ellie, we hope you feel better
Yes.
really, really soon, sweet girl. Hey, it's Tess and Ty and 1580 103.3 WPKY.